I mean, we need to laugh now more than ever.
Right. Right.
And like a friend of mine said, this self-quarantine doesn't have to mean self-isolation.
Right. Yeah.
And that's something, you got to kind of just look at it as like you're establishing a new normal.
But okay, so I'll say this, and then we'll start recording. You think like that. I think like that. Most of the population doesn't think like that.
Hmm.
Adaptability, and I'm trying not to use the word pivot because it's being overused now in this situation, but the ability to adapt to a changing landscape is very, very difficult for a lot of people. Period.
Yeah.
Us, we can do it on a dime. Uh,
Well, it's also, for us, in addition to the improviser mindset, it's also your life and how long you've been freelancing.
yeah.
And this whole terminology now of like the gig economy. It's like I've been doing the gig economy for almost 30 years.
Mm,
And so in this situation, it's like that's kind of prepared me. We're in a state of fear because it's not just fear of this unseen enemy. It's fear also of the unknown. And if you sit down and you list out all the concerns, they're very valid and real. It's like, what am I going to do for work? What if you're someone who's you work at a fast food restaurant,
mm,
or you work at a coffee shop, or you're a driver of some sort, and you can't go out? It's not like, there are some people who can't transfer their work online.
mm,
So how do you keep that mindset and look at this as like, to accept, I think it's, you accept the fact that, yep, everything is very scary right now. It's very uncertain.
mm.
Whatever happens, there are going to be some pretty cool opportunities that come of it. Now, you might not know what it is right now. And that's the thing. If people knew right now, I think they'd feel a lot better. But because you don't know, you're dealing in these uncharted waters. I mean, literally in at least our lifetimes and recent human history, this is uncharted. I mean, this is something that went from, you know what, it's this thing that doesn't affect me, to now I'm quarantined. And
Right.
now how do you deal with that? How do you keep
Right.
up your sanity? How do you keep up your spirits? How do you keep up um, staying outside of that would could be easily be falling down that spiral into that abyss of like, oh man, I don't know how I'm going to pay rent. I don't know how I'm going to survive. I mean, those are very real concerns.
Right. And I tell you what we're going to do. Uh, this last bit that you just did, I'm going to keep that. Somehow I'm going to have them put that into, because I think that's important of what you just said. Um, and I'll have them take that last bit, move it into it actually might be a great intro uh,
Mm,
for the podcast.
yeah.
Um, so right now I will just, welcome you to the show. Great seeing you, checking on everything. And an improviser for blah 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 blah. Let's talk about how we can help people
Mm,
with that adaptability aspect
yeah.
of it. Cool.
Yeah. That's great.
But what you said was key, and I'm going to keep that and have them move that in somewhere. Um, I think I
I
can.
love it as like an intro. That's a good
Yeah,
intro.
yeah. You know how they do? They're doing a little intro right now before every episode, and that would be a
Yeah.
perfect intro into
A little
this.
tease.
Yeah, a little
Yeah.
tease. You're just a little tease.
That's all I am, buddy. No follow through, just a tease.
Just a tease. Don't follow through.
Zero follow through.
Okay.
Wait,
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 wait, wait, wait,
wait for it.
wait,
All
wait
right.
for it. Wait. Okay. Okay. All right. Hey, I'm on the beach, so I'm just
It looks good, brother.
yeah.
God, it's so beautiful.
Hey, welcome everybody. My guest today is, and he's a repeat offender on this show,
I'm
Mr.
keep coming
Jay.
on.
Keep coming on. I love when you come on, Jay Sukow. And Jay is a professional improviser, as you've heard already in his bio that I included at the introduction of this podcast. And actually, we're going to get right to the conversation. Except first, Jay, welcome. Thank you.
Hey.
I'm sitting on the beach in Malibu. And Jay's hunkered down somewhere in LA. My backdrop is the actual beach in Malibu. So I'm trying to, have that kind of mindset, that kind of emotion coming out, just to versus looking at the back of my wall, just have some calmness out there for you. Jay, welcome. Thank you very much. Looking forward to this conversation, buddy.
Oh, Peter, thank you. And look at that. Oh, it just you're right up the street. Look at that background, the blue skies, the birds, the water. How wonderful.
And
I'm home.
there's nobody on the beach as well.
No, I mean that's pretty accurate.
Yeah, it is pretty accurate.
Everyone's inside.
So,
Thanks for having me.
oh, thanks. Thanks for taking time. I know you've got a lot of stuff going on, and trying to figure out our new normal as it exists. But as
Mm.
an improviser for 30 years, and I've learned so much from you and our interactions over this past year. Um, how can we help my audience in dealing with this new normal? And it's not even new. I mean, it's new, but it hasn't become that normal because it's rapidly changing.
Yeah, I think that's the key phrase right now is like new normal. And as improvisers, we have a mindset that like don't hold on to anything dearly because everything changes,
Right.
and you have to let go of that which doesn't serve you anymore, and then move forward with new information. And we are constantly being updated with new information right now. And so I think one of the things that helps me in these situations is reminding yourself to stay present, stay present, stay present. What's happening right now? What is an immediate threat to me right now? I look at something like rent. It's like, well, do I have to pay rent right now? Right now I don't. Now that's not ignoring the fact that it's going to happen, but if
Right.
you could stay present, and you're trying to train yourself to take things moment to moment. So moment to moment, realizing everything's going to change. And another way to do that is to focus on breathing. Sometimes it's like just take a moment, turn off your computer or your phone and just breathe in for a 4 count and then breathe out for a 4 count. And you'll be amazed at what that does. It also keeps you, in the moment, which is one of the biggest things right now, is because there's so much uncertainty. There's so much, if you thought your life was uncertain before,
Mhm.
now it's like, oh man, now it's not just uncertainty of things you can do, but it's uncertainty of things that are happening all around you. So I think take a breath. Another thing that can help with this is, find those people who bring you joy. I had a friend and he said, this whole self-quarantine doesn't mean to isolate yourself. It's not a self-isolation. So take a moment. And I got a call from my friend Dave last week just saying, hey, how you doing? And it was such a wonderful gesture of him to reach out and just go, hey, I'm just checking in, especially when you're in the same similar boat. If you're
Right.
both freelancers, or if you're both accountants, or if you both work in an office, or you have the more shared experiences, then the more you could just let out what your fears and concerns are.
And I'll be transparent with you, Jay. I'm really good about being present and being in the moment and trying to focus on the things that I can't control. But I slipped yesterday. I got out of being present, and I went down this path.
It's fun,
And
right? Isn't it
no,
fun?
not one bit. I love following the fear,
Yeah.
but this was getting outside of it and just getting all of a sudden caught up in this rush of, and it wasn't a good thing. And the only way I could get myself out of it, and you just shared, I said, take a breath, dummy,
Yeah.
just breathe, because I wasn't breathing.
And it's so hard to get out of it.
Yeah,
You have to, it's what we're trying to do as improvisers is we're always trying to get out of our heads.
right.
And once you get up in there and you climb up into your head, it's hard to get out. And you're very smart. So your brain wants to always be right. So your brain wants to say things like, well, like your brain doesn't want to say, hey man, everything's gonna be fine. You've survived. You're a survivor. Things are going to look different, but you're going to be okay. Like you start now looking around to it. There are examples of, I think in general, humanity wants to take care of itself
Hmm.
and wants to protect the herd.
Right.
And so there are examples happening all over. There was a guy on Twitter who said, hey, you know, F the coronavirus. If you have a bill you aren't able to pay, post it here, give me your Venmo. And then that started a chain of, he started paying people's bills, and then people would follow him, and then people would say like, oh, I got that bill for you. So people started helping each other out. There's a lot of resources as well that you can reach out to in your city or county or state, where you can find ways to help. You know, so I think things are slowly starting to change. I think there are certain landlords as well that are saying, hey, if you can only pay me half, or maybe not this month. Like, but what you have to realize with that as well is like, well, those people have mortgages that they have to pay. So I think there are these examples where we're starting to slowly take care of ourselves, but it's going to take a while. This was something that, you know, people didn't take seriously for a while, and now all of a sudden it's like, oh man, now it's here. So that's adding to the nervousness. But if, yeah, like you said, if you could take a moment and take a breath, sometimes I remember I had a therapist who said, imagine you have visualize two big suitcases, heavy suitcases. At the end of the night, just say to yourself, I'm done, and visualize putting them down. And then that represents all the burdens you're carrying in the day. Just go, yeah, I'm done. I've done enough today. And it's something that really has helped me, where I go, oh, right, I'm spiraling. I'm thinking about all of what's happening right now. I'm only focused on the bad because, it's my brain's way of focusing on surviving.
Right.
But if I can say, hey, wait a minute, let me put these down right now, these heavy thoughts, I'm going to put these down. And another thing is, you know, how much screen time are you having? Because the more I go on social media, especially Twitter, or the more that I see all this stress and anxiety pop up.
Right.
So like another thing is, can you limit your amount of time you're on social media?
Yeah.
Because that just it accelerates the anxiety.
And for old folks like myself, those older baby boomers like myself who still stuck to like TV in the morning, watching the news and stuff, I did that this morning. I said, I'm going to watch the first 10 minutes of the Today Show, and that's it.
Yeah.
I'm going to work.
That's great. That's
it.
Great. I think like first, you know, if you want to do the first, you know, set a time, like the first few minutes in the day, or at the end, you can go online at the end of the night.
Yeah.
And you can get a recap of everything that's happened in a very short amount of time.
Right.
So there are things you have in your control of things you can do to kind of limit your exposure to that anxiety.
Well, the one quote that you share, I'm giving you credit for it, and because I think it came from you in one of our conversations. Improvise the scene you're in, not the one you want it to be.
Yeah, and that's, you know, any of the quotes I say, as you know, are not mine. I don't have a single original thought.
Oh,
I
sure
heard that from someone. Well, I mean, a lot of these, like, I'm sharing from other people I know, and it's true. That's a great philosophy of like, it's not the time we want right now, but it's the time we're in. And it's all to do with, you know, and I've been thinking a lot about acceptance. And for a lot of people, acceptance might equal weakness. And it's like, no, acceptance is a very brave and strong thing to do. It's like, I'm accepting the situation I'm in. Once I've accepted it, then I can make decisions based on it. But when I'm not accepting the reality, I'm just struggling.
Right.
When I don't want to accept what's happening, it's like, well, that gets me in trouble. But if I can accept it, now I can respond to it. And I think we're in this constant state of just being in response to it.
Yeah, and I will admit that since this started, improviser scene that you're in, not the one that you want it to be, is what I say at the very beginning of my day. And to your point, when I put the suitcases down at the end of the day, and just in order to, okay, so apparently I had a problem yesterday because I it helped keep me present and focused on how am I dealing with this, and not getting stuck, like you said, up in your head.
And with that, be compassionate towards ourselves. Like, this is all a huge, very steep learning curve. And so if something happens during the day and you get frustrated with yourself, whether it's like I wasn't present, or I didn't handle things a certain way, or I wish I could have, you know, the old phrase, like, you're shooting all over yourself. Like, I should have done this, I should have done that, you know?
I'm glad you clarified that.
Yeah,
you're shooting.
You're shooting all over yourself, man. Or my friend says, you're practicing the art of masturbation. Like, I must do this, I must do that. It's like, if you can let go of those and you say, okay, I shouldn't have done anything.
Right.
I did what I did. Sometimes it's, if the opportunity presents itself next time, I'll change my response. But what I did, I have to accept that that's what I did. And now it's time to continue to move forward and build this momentum. And sometimes, you know, I had a therapist once who said, Jay, if you're depressed, be the best depressed you can be. And I was like, man, forget you. Well, what? I was like, I don't want that. And I went, oh, right, that's the problem. I don't want to sit in this emotion. I don't want to feel this. I want to be happy all the time. I feel like I'm entitled. And it's like, no, that's not the way it is. If you're feeling overwhelmed or you're feeling depressed, like it will all change, but you just sit in it and you go, eventually I'll ride this out.
Mm-hmm.
You know, a friend of mine once told me, like, just tie a knot and hold on. And sometimes that involves other people, you know, and it's very hard for people to reach out. It's very hard for us to reach out sometimes and to say, like, hey, I need help, or like, I'm not feeling well, but you're just like, in an improv scene, you're just calling out what the truth is. And those scenes are always more fascinating when someone says, like, hey, you look sad, rather than we're trying to hide what's going on. It's like, what's the truth that's happening right now? Versus, you know, in improv scenes, we talk about truth and fact, where it's like, the fact is we're at this Starbucks, but that's not the truth. You know, the fact is we're in this situation where there's now becoming a lot more like a self-quarantine and we don't know what's happening. Like, that's the fact, but what's the truth? Like, what are you feeling? Like, when you can start naming those feelings, you start getting out of your head even more. You know, get out of your head into your heart. Like, how are you feeling right now? And another thing that helps, my friend, and this to me goes a lot with improv, is playing from a sense of gratitude.
Yeah.
Like, when I improvise with people and I walk into a scene, like, I'm very grateful to have this moment with you right now. Like, and if you change that mindset, and it's very difficult, but if you change it to, like, this is a sense of gratitude. I don't know why this is a good thing right now, but I'm grateful for this situation. And then you look at it and you go, maybe now it's the time I'm finally forced to do this thing. Mm-hmm. Like, I wonder how many people are going to try to really learn guitar now. I was thinking about that a lot. How many people have guitars and they're like, they've been trying, they've wanted to learn it, and now finally they might find themselves with some free time. You know, and another thing that helps with this is establishing the new routine. You know, treating the day like it's still a work day. Like, for me, it's still a work day. Most of my time when I'm, like, let's say I'm looking for work or I'm reaching out to people, I'm kind of doing this schedule anyway. So establish what your new routine is, even if you just write it down. Like, writing things down, it's amazing, because a lot of times those things happen once you write them down, but you put them in the light and you're like, okay, now I can look back to what's my routine. And, you know, maybe, and everything changes. Everything is going day to day. So the improviser is able to be more flexible, because that's what our instinct is, or we've been trained to do, is like, okay, what's happening today, not going to be the same tomorrow. I'm undergoing some training with one of the theaters I work with, and they're always saying, this is for today.
Yeah.
And everything's going to change. And, you know, now we're trying to teach improv online, and I'm finding it fascinating, because for years I always thought I'd love to be able to improvise with someone who's not in my city, a friend of mine who moved away. And it's like, how can we make that happen? And now we're forced to make it happen. So for us, it's, in a way it's scary, but another way, oh, this is really exciting. Because also, as a teacher, how fun is you don't have to leave your house, and you can still affect people, and you can still teach people. And now you're just, you know, it's forcing you to be more creative and innovative. I mean, this is forced innovation right now in my area of business. The same for you, same for anybody. This is like forced innovation. And you look at it and you go, okay, I need to do this. This is what I've been doing. Is there a way I can adapt or change this to fit what this new world is? And right now, the new world is going into these virtual meetings. Now, I think once things settle a little bit, we'll get back to having these in-person meetings. But I think this is a valuable tool set that we can have to say, okay, now here's another offering I have, which I didn't have before.
and to a sense of gratitude, and an improviser is very good at doing that. Um, to the fact of, okay, I'm pretty proficient with Zoom and virtual meetings, and I've taught online courses, and I've built
Look at
on.
your background.
I know, seriously,
You're a green screen monster, man. It's
exactly.
great.
So I contacted an association and said, hey, how can I help you and your members? This is my expertise. How, and your members are being forced into a virtual environment that they're not accustomed to. Utilize me. I'm not charging. I'm not asking for any money. I'm here to help you and your
Yeah.
members. And it was very quick to move to that mindset. It was almost something I was brainstorming with a few of my speaker friends, and somebody made that comment. Said, perfect. I love it. Let's do it. Didn't hesitate.
Right. Because they're improvisers, whether they're performers or not, they
Right.
have the mindset.
Yeah.
And it's changing that mindset to saying, yeah, let's do it. And not just let's do it, but like, how could it work?
Yeah. And another thing you said about playing the guitar, thank you for placing that in my head. But actually, 3 weeks ago, when I realized my business was beginning to, things were canceling, uh, my mother and family have always wanted me to learn Greek because I only know the dirty words.
Those are the best words.
Well, the best words. My grandmother taught them to me. So I went out and got a lifetime subscription to Rosetta Stone at a one-time cost, and I've been now. I'm not gonna let the secret out. I've been teaching myself Greek, on and off over the last 3 weeks. Who knows
See,
what's going to happen in like another 3 months?
I think that's a great example where you're looking at this as like, these are acknowledge the fear,
Yeah,
acknowledge the anxiety, be like, yep, absolutely. I'm very anxious.
yeah,
So for some people it's writing this down. Some people it's just thinking it. Some people
mm,
it's saying it out loud. Once you've acknowledged it and you say, yep, there's a lot of uncertainty. I'm very scared. Now you move into what can you do? What
mm,
action can you do? And you're a perfect example of like, I'm going to learn Greek.
mm,
I'm going to do this and I'm going to purchase this and I'm going to be of service.
mm.
Like I have a scoop that I'm going to share with you,
Okay.
is that, and I'm going to reach out to some people I have as far as like people that I coach or clients or things like that. And it's until this whole thing settles, I'm going to start offering free sessions to be like, hey, we're all in this together. If it's a situation where you can't pay, that's fine. Like I'm going to start reaching out to the improv community and say, I want to have these one-on-one sessions with people and say, what do you really need to work on? Let's do that, right? Like, let's spend this time doing it. It's going to help me. I mean, it's in a way, it's a selfish reason because it's going to help me become more comfortable with online teaching.
Right.
But in another way, it's like, I want to be able to be of service. And
Hmm.
that's something I learned in improv is you're of service to the show. You're of service to your scene partner. How can I be of service right now? And what you said when you reach out to the association is a perfect example. It's like, let's be of service to each other right now. There are things we can and can't do. Like right now, a lot of my friends and myself and you as well, a lot of people are seeing their incomes dry up.
Hmm.
So you go, okay, that's the reality of the situation.
Yeah.
If I self-isolate, it's going to be a lot worse. I'm going to feel a lot worse, and it's going to be on top of everything that's happening now. It's going to be harder for me to get out of that crevice. It's going to be harder once I'm in it, once I'm in my head, and once I go, oh man, this is it. It's the end. I'm not going to survive. It's so hard for me to get out of that. But if I can maintain this momentum and still do things and say, hey, I'm very grateful for this opportunity. Now, I think you're still accepting what's happening, but I think it's changing that mindset, which is like one of your big focuses. Like, how do you change that mindset?
Right.
And it's a muscle. You're also dealing with X amount of years of thinking a certain way, whether that's X amount of years of like, I come into this office every day. This is my job
Hmm.
and I'm rewarded for it. Like that's your mindset then. It's all changing now. So you can hold on to it or you can let go of what that is because it doesn't serve you now and move on to something new.
Right. It's just it's being adaptable to a very changing landscape. And I will say this, and I'll offer this up. I'm intrigued by taking improv online
Mm-hmm.
to bring it as a function of an online. So if you need to collaborate with me about online environments and I'd love to help you guys with that because I think that's fascinating to me. Um,
I also have a friend too who's like she does online universities.
Yeah.
So I had mentioned something. She goes, "Yeah, I'm interested too." So it's like, okay, you know how it works that way.
Hmm.
Now reaching out to you, Peter, to be like, okay, how does it work with like the interaction, like having that discussion? And I think it's forcing people to move in that direction and to go like this, you know. And I think the issue for years for us improvisers is you have to change how you look at it. You can't look at it like, how do we adapt these games that work well live
Hmm.
into this format? You have to look at it, no, how do we adapt this, use this format? This is the format. What can we do knowing that here are the formats and here are the limitations, but here are the things that we couldn't do in person that we can do now based on technology. It's a very exciting time.
It's funny you should say that because a friend of mine who's a CPA and an improviser, Kristen Rampy, but when I met her about 3 years ago, we were talking, we should get, an improv troupe together of accountants. There'll be like two of us or five of us. There's not that many. Uh, and we know people around the country, but we didn't know, and we're not in the same city. And we should do this online. And we kept trying to think through how would this work? But
You know what you do?
and we weren't forced into it. But now that
You're
you're
not forced
forced
into
into it,
it.
yeah,
And you know
yeah,
what you do is you just, it's Nike. Just do it. You do it and you go. My buddy Will Hines has written a couple of great improv books. So if you're looking to nerd out improv wise, one
yeah.
is like how to be the greatest improviser. I think it's how to be the greatest improviser on earth.
Okay,
And he's a very funny guy. And then one is like, I think it's called Pirate Robot Ninja, which differentiates you into different types of improvisers.
okay,
But you know, I'm in the midst of, I'm trying to write this book on improv, and he goes, you just got to accept the fact that the first draft is going to suck. It's
yeah.
going to suck. He goes, you just got to get out there. And the same with what you're talking about. It's
Mm,
like, how do you do it? I don't know. You get together and you try it.
yeah.
Like Google Hangouts, we've done a couple shows there, and it's starting to happen. My friend Amy Gerlich does Improv, and she's been doing it for a while. And it was kind of, she put it on hold for a little bit, and now she's starting it back up again, which is like, how do we do improv online? And I think it's the same thing of, get together in a Google Hangout,
Mm,
try it. If you think about years ago, like when Viola Spolin was, when she was creating a lot of these improv games,
yeah.
she created the games out of a sense of, there was a problem, how do I solve it?
Right.
So it was like, there's a language barrier. Instead of saying, you know, I have students from all who don't speak English at all. They all speak different languages. How do I still get to them and affect them? She didn't go, it can't be done. She didn't sit there and go, well, here are the problems.
Hmm.
She went, huh, what if we have them create a language that they all share called gibberish? And that's how gibberish came out. So a lot of the games she did wasn't for performing, it was for helping solve problems. So when you look at what you're doing,
Mm,
it's like, okay, cool. We're not in the same space, but we have the internet. We have this online capability. We have the connections there, right?
right.
So now let's just get up and play. You know, it goes back to, it reminds me of my old days when I first started improvising, when nobody knew what improv was. You know, when a handful of people on earth had ever heard of like a form called the Herald, which is pretty prevalent
Mm,
now throughout the world for improvisers. But a lot of people back in that day had you were like, well, it's like Saturday Night Live, but we make it up. So they, like, people didn't have a reference to it. So it was the excitement of just getting together and sitting in a classroom somewhere and saying, oh, Peter, when you walked in, Pam left. So what if we do, every time someone walks in, someone leaves? And you just kind of, you got very excited about creating this because there was no blueprint at that point. And I think the
right.
same thing for online. It's like,
Yeah.
I don't know, let's give it a try.
Right.
Get 6 accountants who are improvisers together in a Google Hangout. Don't even necessarily do it for an audience, but like the more you do something,
Right.
the better you get. It's just the iterations improve. So do it, sit, and that's how we would work on forms as well. It's like, oh, here's an idea for a form. We go through it and you go, don't talk about the things that didn't work. We all know that.
Right.
What are the moments that worked? And let's build on the moments that worked.
Yeah.
And I think that's the thing as you continue to move forward, is like, we're all going to make mistakes. We're all going to be stressed out, but each day keep focusing on what worked for me yesterday. And then celebrate, there was I forget who it was, but I heard there was a family who would have family dinners once a week. And the whole, like once a week, they would celebrate their failures. Somebody would say, I did this, and everyone would clap and go, hooray. And I think the same thing is like, you could celebrate the failures, but build upon what's been working. I mean, that's what is really a good improv scene, and a good life scene is like, what worked for you? What got you to this point?
Mm-hmm.
Build on what's working.
I like those ideas. I mean, I've got like 14 ideas just from this conversation on how to help others and how to stay engaged and stay creative in this time of uncertainty, even much more so than I began this conversation with. And you're the guru. I keep telling you, you're the improv guru.
No,
Yeah.
I'm the conduit of other voices.
Well,
I just have an ability to remember things, and I'm passing it along, and this is the information too, of like you were talking about, take this as an opportunity to pass along the information. That's how you keep it, is you got to give it away. So is there something you're good at? Go online, do a Facebook Live thing, and do send out an email, reach out to people. What is it that you are good at? What is it that you can offer? And people, a lot of times they'll be like, oh, I don't have anything to offer. It's like, no, that's not true. There are things that we all do that people don't have experience in. Like your knowledge of accounting.
Easy now.
Well, no, but I have zero knowledge.
Right.
And I remember my friend Tony Llewellyn once. I was at a theater and they gave us a brand new curriculum, like completely changed everything. And I was like studying this thing, and I'm like, I talked to Tony, and Tony is one of the most in the moment people I've ever seen.
Yeah.
And I go, Tony, man, how do you feel about this new curriculum? And he just looks at me. He goes, I just got to be 1 week ahead of the students.
That's true.
And it's like, same thing. Like, so your knowledge of accounting is so much more ahead of somebody like me. So that's an opportunity to say like, okay, I have this. If anybody wants to share, I have this information, and you'll be amazed. People are at this point now too. They're dying for information. They're dying for information to improve themselves. You want to learn Greek. So you're like, this is an opportunity I'm going to take to get that subscription.
Yeah.
And so there are these opportunities, and we have to, if you're looking for opportunities, it's going to help change your mindset too. But if you find people to commiserate with about how bad things are, absolutely. Yeah. But it's not going to improve anything. Thank you. It's not going to improve anything. All you're going to be doing is you are just going to be focusing on that negative with someone else who's co-signing your BS, as I was told once. It's like, oh yeah, they're co-signing your BS. See, and again, none of these are my thoughts. I'm like a storyteller. I'm just passing along what people have said.
Well, yeah, and I like to pass on the same thing. I like to be a conduit as well. And by the way, for those of you who aren't watching this, he was just handed a coffee cup. I'm not sure what's in the coffee cup. I'm not sure what's in the coffee. It's tea.
It is tea.
It looks like Irish whiskey.
Hey man,
no, that was yesterday.
Gets you through. No, that's yesterday.
I mean, great information, and it's just, I think improvisers tend to stay positive more than most, and calm. Because we focus on the things that we have control, and we don't focus as much on the things we don't have control.
It's just wasted energy.
Yeah.
The same with, like, at a certain point, two things happen for an improviser as you continue. One is you realize, oh, that scene we just did, I don't have to think about it anymore because we're not going to do it again. So I don't have to focus on it. Focusing on what I could have done better in that improv scene is useless. The other is, as you continue, when you first start improvising, you're so afraid and you're so convinced the scene's going to be bad, the show's going to be bad. As you continue, you just assume it's going to be good. You just assume it's going to work out. And you go, man, if this show isn't good, of all the shows I've done, that was one of them. Of all the shows I've done, that was the most recent. Yeah. And you move on. And it's something that you are constantly practicing. I'm better at it only because I practice it more than maybe other people do. But there are people who've never taken an improv class who have this mindset already. And you're like, you're a born improviser and they might never be on stage, but you know those people in your life, those people that they always seem to like take things in stride, or when you know everything hits the fan, they take a breath and they go, okay, here's how we deal with it, or they make you feel heard. Another thing is
Yeah.
people, it's very important right now for people to feel heard. So sometimes it's just calling somebody and saying, how you doing, which might be a follow the fear thing. Like, think about those people that you're like, I've got to reach out to them. And each week it gets harder and harder because you haven't. This is the perfect excuse to do it, right? This is like, it's a hard reset of society, man. This is a hard reset. And you go, I can use this whole coronavirus as an excuse to reach out to somebody and go, hey, you know what? I haven't talked to you in a while. I feel bad. I wanted to check in. How you doing? Because now you've got something to talk about.
Yeah.
And if you're afraid of what am I going to say to somebody, which we all have that fear of, right?
Yeah.
Here's a simple trick. You just say to them, how are you doing? If you just focus on them, everybody's going to talk about themselves. You know, it's like when you walk in a room, you're always scared of what like people are looking at you or talking about you. I got news, man. They ain't. We're all thinking about ourselves. Rarely is it like, oh, everyone's no, they're not. We're all thinking about ourselves. So you can use this opportunity right now to say, I've been meaning to send an email to somebody. I've been meaning to reach out to somebody, or, hey, I just haven't checked in with that person. How are they doing? And you'll be amazed at the impact it has on them.
Absolutely. That's good advice. And I have been using that. I shared it and a podcast that's going to air after yours, that I had a friend who his doctor believed he did contract the coronavirus, but it was during the testing period that he couldn't get tested because he didn't meet some of the criteria, that he wasn't out of the country, or he didn't know if he came in contact.
Right.
But he self-quarantined. And every day I send him a text. How you feeling? How's it going? And, you know, I'm feeling bad. It's terrible. I said, you know, I'll keep checking in. And, hey, by the way, I watched Knives Out last night on Netflix. Love the movie. Might want to watch it. And, I watched, you know, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. So I was giving him, you know, these movies and stuff that I was watching, and just, oh man, I really like that movie. So yeah, I'm trying to help lift his spirits. And last check, he's doing better.
That's huge. I mean, I don't think you're going to understand the impact until later what you had on him. Just a text saying how you doing, is huge, and then giving those suggestions. I mean, that's something, that's a great example of what we can do to people in our circle and how we can affect them in our circle. And you look at it like, it's not that I'm not going out because I'm afraid of getting it. I'm not going out because I'm afraid I'm a carrier. I think that's how we have to shift it too, to be like, I don't want to hurt people.
Right.
Like, it's not that I'm afraid I'm going to get it. It's like, you have to assume you already have it. Like, that's part of the change in mindset of it. You just got to assume you've had it, or because then you're really making your choices based on other people, not yourself. Right. You know, and I've got so many wonderful, talented friends. Like my buddy Bill Cott does this live jive thing on Facebook, and he's utilizing that time to say, like, I'm going to do some characters, or I'm going to share some comedy. If you want to tune in, great, tune in and watch that. And you'll be amazed at the amount of people that it affects. You know, you don't, like, I went on, I have a Follow the Fear Friday where I post something on social media, and it's like, hey, what are you going to do to follow the fear today?
Oh,
and,
yeah.
And last Friday, I just went live on Facebook, and I was like, hey, let's talk about it. And I was amazed at, I remember thinking to myself, maybe a handful of people will tune in. And I was amazed at how many people sat and watched that. And then it started a conversation for people as well. So I think if you do something where your focus is on helping other people, you know, I heard this once too, try to do something good and get away with it. Try to do something good for someone else and get away with it. Like that, again, changes your mindset to, I'm not there to do it for a reason other than I'm putting it out there. So I'm going to steal that. What you were talking about is like reaching out to people and just saying, hey, how you doing? Or like, I watched this movie, like giving people, you know, our job as improvisers too, is to give people hope.
Yeah.
Like, and bring comedy and laughter. We need it now more than ever. The world needs improvisers now more than ever, whether it's your mindset or the focus on the group, or to make each other look good, or just to bring laughter, or just hang out. You know, I have a class that I teach, and I was like, oh, we're going to go dark and not have classes. And they're like, well, could we just do a hangout where we do a Google online hangout? Because for some people, that's the only interaction they're going to have that day with another human being.
Right.
We have to remember that and check in on those people. Check in on the people who are more susceptible, the people that are in their, 65 and older, because they don't want to be inside. They don't
Right.
want to do this.
Yeah.
So now's the time to check in.
It is, and it's time to check in, but not just by phone,
Yes,
but by FaceTime,
that's
by
exactly.
this, by hanging. But it's having that face to face, seeing that other person goes a long way. Our NSA Ohio chapter is doing a virtual town hall meeting tomorrow from 12 to 1 to our professional members, and just asking them, how are you doing?
And
And
that's perfect.
because we're isolated. Those who are in a gig economy, those who are solopreneurs, we're used to working alone, but also used to getting in a plane. We also used to getting out of the house. But now that we tend to get isolated, and we're realizing that it's like, how can we help our members? So
Hmm.
we would start out to be, through a conversation we were going to do it once. We're doing it every week.
That's great.
Every week, a virtual town hall meeting. Let's get together. If you show up, and then something might branch out. Maybe I'll take a group. Say, hey, I'm going to do an improv piece on this and help and whatever, and have that
Yeah.
other type of meeting. Just see how we can serve.
Opportunity.
Opportunity.
Opportunity. Not downplaying the fact that it's very serious, and not downplaying the fact that people
Right.
are affected by this and people are dying. Like, that is accepting that. Like, that is true. And there is sadness and anxiety around that.
Mm,
Absolutely. There's also, improvisers can bring empathy to the situation
mm.
and look at it like an opportunity to share that empathy and to share that joy and that hope and that love. And for me, improv is about the love too. It's
Yeah.
like, when people are like, what advice would you give to improvisers? And I'm like, more love, more scenes that involve love, more sharing of that. Like, that's something I would tell people, is like, you can't get enough of it right
Right. You can't.
now, you know,
We just need to keep doing that. I need to respect your time because we're getting up to about 1 o'clock, and I think you had something going on.
respect my time.
What?
What?
What? Yeah, because you did tell me you had something going on at 1, and we're butting up against that. I don't want to, mess up your day. Uh,
You tell me what you need.
I need more of your time. Not doing a podcast, but I love having these conversations because you give me a lot of ideas, and I'm serious. Let me help you. However I can help you, just ask. It's there.
No, that's great. Thank you. And I think one thing is, like, as we're continuing, is there are going to be a ton of these online improv shows popping up. And so I think what would help is if people tune in and watch those. And if you just, I'm sure if you go on social media, you'll see it. But I think that's one way, is like, support people and local artists. Support, like, there are people that are having a hard time paying rent, so they're offering some services, either discounted or maybe a barter or something like that. So if you see an opportunity to do that, or throw a Kickstarter, I for my birthday, I did a fundraiser. Facebook's like, do you want to do a fundraiser? I'm like, sure, why not? And I did it for Room to Improv, which, I mean, Eileen Kahana, and you're wearing a Room to Improv shirt right now, which I love.
Yeah.
And I'm like, hey, if you got a couple bucks, throw it up there. And I think we raised $1,200, which I was blown away by. I was like, and it was people that also, I knew there were people that didn't have the money to share,
Yeah.
that did it. And I knew that, and I was like, oh my God, I can't believe people. That's why I go, we have to keep that thought that humanity overall is good. They are looking to help other people. So if there's a way that you can help, reach out to your local restaurant or bar and say, hey, you're hurting right now. Is there a way I can help out? And even sometimes it's just, they might say, share this post or something. But I think to be of service and to look to help other people, I think that's the best you can do. And a lot of because I'm in a circle of a lot of artists, I know a lot of my artist friends are really hurting right now and very scared. So if you wanted to take a voice lesson or learn how to sing, now is a great time to reach out to a local, a local singer or voice teacher and say, hey, I want to do a couple one-on-one sessions. So there's always opportunity to help.
Absolutely great advice. Because of everything that's been going on, completely slipped my mind, but you just reminded me of something. Was it March 15th was your birthday?
March 14th,
Fourth.
the same birthday as Albert Einstein.
Oh, that's what it is. And
That's
so,
right.
and you were going to have this big party in LA for you were turning what, 40 or something like that. I
Oh,
don't
you're
remember.
so kind. I'm
I
not going
don't.
to say I was turning 50, but I'll take, yes, I was my big 5-0, buddy. The
Welcome
big
to the
5-0.
welcome to the club. Well, a big old happy birthday to you, Jay, and I'll have a little bit bourbon in your honor tonight and wish you a happy birthday because
Oh,
with everything went on, just slipped my mind, but I did jar my memory and happy birthday, buddy, and
oh, thank you, man, my friend.
and
That means a lot.
cool. And do me a favor, at least initially, when you know that these improv shows are coming online,
Uh-huh.
send me a note. Just send me a quick
Great.
note and say, look for this. And then once I get that into my routine, then I'll be able to do it and I'll share that out as well.
Oh, perfect. Yeah. When I've got it, I'll drop you a line for sure.
Perfect. I appreciate everything that you've done, everything you continue to do. And I look forward to the next time we have time to spend together again.
I appreciate you, my friend. Thanks for having me on. This was great.